When we think about succeeding in business, we're almost always thinking about offense, right? Building something new, launching the next big thing. But what if I told you the toughest challenges you face, especially with clients, aren't about creation at all? What if they're actually about defense? Well, today we're building a whole new kind of playbook, one that's all about protecting the work to win the game.
So where do we get this new playbook? Believe it or not, we're heading to the basketball court. We're going to see how the strategies of some of the NBA's all-time greatest defenders give us this incredible framework for handling the hardest parts of any client project.
Okay, here's the game plan. First, we're going to draft our all-defensive team. Then, we'll look at 4 huge business challenges: security, boundaries, scope creep, and ownership, and match a player's strategy to each one. And stick around, because at the end, we'll pull it all together into the championship playbook.
To win, you've got to have the right players on the floor. So let's meet the starting lineup. We're talking about 6 absolute legends who are the gold standard of defense, and they're going to form the core of our new business strategy.
First up to bat? Wait, wrong sport. First up on the court, Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon. The man is the NBA's all-time leader in blocks, but he wasn't just a brick wall. He was a master of fluid, agile defense, using his footwork to adapt to any threat that came his way.
And next to him in the paint, Dikembe Mutombo. You know him for that iconic finger wag. Mutombo was just this immovable force. When you think of him, you think of a hard, absolute, non-negotiable policy. His message was simple: not in my house.
Our power forward is the one and only Tim Duncan, the big fundamental. He didn't need to be flashy. He just won, all the time, with his quiet consistency and smart positioning. He's going to be our model for setting calm, unwavering boundaries.
At the point, we've got Gary Payton, the glove. This guy was famous for his absolutely suffocating defense. He'd pressure you the entire length of the court. He represents shutting down problems before they even have a chance to get started. And of course, you need Scottie Pippen. He was the ultimate glue guy. Yeah, he was an elite defender, no question, but he was also the facilitator who made sure every single part of the team worked together perfectly to get that win. And finally, rounding out the team, Dennis Rodman, the Worm. This guy built a Hall of Fame career doing the dirty work nobody else wanted to do, and that meant grabbing every single rebound. He is the personification of pure hustle and ownership.
All right, teams on the floor. Let's put them to work. First up, the big challenge of technical security. This is your last line of defense, right? It's your paint. And to protect it, we need our 2 legendary big men, Mutombo and Hakeem.
Now, what's so great about this is that these 2 guys represent a 2-part strategy. The Mutombo in you is your hard policy. That's your firewall, your strict access rules, the absolute no. But that's not enough. You also need a Hakeem. That's your agile defense, your constant monitoring, the ability to pivot and react gracefully when new threats pop up.
So, when a client asks you to bend the security rules just for convenience, you channel your inner Mutombo. You don't get into a big negotiation, you just state the policy clearly and firmly. It's not an apology, it's a rejection. It's your finger wag. No easy baskets.
Okay, let's move on to the next challenge: setting and, more importantly, maintaining client boundaries. This is where things can get messy, emotional, inconsistent, and that's exactly why we're bringing in the antidote to all that drama: Tim Duncan.
So, what's the key here? You have to take the emotion out of it. Tim Duncan was famous for his bank shot. Why? Because the backboard is fundamentally reliable. It's always there. Your statement of work, that's your backboard. When a client starts pushing a boundary, you don't argue. You just point to the SOW. It might seem boring, but it's consistent, it's unemotional, and it just works.
And this is just a perfect example of that strategy in action. Picture this. It's late. Your phone buzzes. It's the client. Instead of reacting, you respond fundamentally. You calmly redirect their request to the proper time and channel. You're basically training them on the rules of the game, which is played during business hours.
All right, next up, the silent killer of basically every project ever: scope creep. You know what I'm talking about. Those small ideas that just slowly drain the life out of your timeline. To stop it, we need more than just defense. We need a suffocating full-court press. We need the glove, Gary Payton.
See, Payton never let his opponent get comfortable. He was on them from the second they touched the ball. And you have to do the exact same thing with scope creep. Don't wait for them to send a formal request. The moment you hear just a quick thought or one small favor, that's when you apply that polite but very firm pressure.
And here it is, the perfect line. It's brilliant because it actually validates their idea. You're not shooting it down, but you immediately contain it. You're moving it off the court for this game and putting it in the parking lot for Phase 2. You've protected your scope without starting a fight. It's a beautiful thing.
Our last big challenge is ownership. This is all about the unglamorous stuff, the little things that are absolutely essential to get a project over the finish line. And for this, we need our two ultimate hustle players, Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen.
So think of ownership in two parts. First, you gotta be the rod man. That means you go get the rebounds. And in business, the rebounds are the loose ends, the missing files, the awkward follow-up emails, the schedule conflicts. You don't wait for someone else, you hustle. But then, you also have to be the Pippen. You facilitate the whole flow, connecting the dots and making sure everyone else on your team is set up to succeed.
Okay, so we have our players, we have our strategies, but what if I told you there's something deeper going on here? A universal law that governs all of this. Let's get to our championship playbook and see how this all connects back to the fundamental laws of physics. Yeah, really.
Okay, check this out. This is just incredible. Mutombo's defense? That's a potential barrier in physics. It makes the energy required to get past it way too high. Duncan's consistent boundaries? That creates static equilibrium, an unmovable, balanced state. Payton's pressure on scope creep? That's basically Boyle's law. By shrinking the project volume, you increase the pressure. And Rodman's hustle? That's the conservation of momentum, making sure no energy is lost, every loose ball is secured.
So, let's wrap this up with your playbook. For security, be like Mutombo and Hakeem. Hard policies plus agility. For boundaries, stay boring and consistent like Tim Duncan. To kill scope creep, apply that early pressure like Gary Payton. And for total ownership, hustle for the loose ends like Rodman and make the whole team better like Pippen.
And that brings us to the final question, the one you need to take back with you. Just look at these 4 defensive positions we talked about. Be honest with yourself. Which one is your weakest link right now? Because that's where you start building your championship team.